Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, I'll be discussing my thoughts on episode 5 of the anime series Noragami Aragoto. And holy crap, man! From right out of the gate, seeing Yukine's being saved by becoming effectively a blessed vessel, his transformation, so that Yato is now running around with dual-wielding blades. It was all kinds of awesome. I had goosebumps. I was like, just awestruck as this was happening. He literally transforms and he becomes this blessed vessel, and we find that, for Yato, it's his first regalia ever that's ever done this. And it's something very similar to what happened to Cosmo so many centuries ago. And it was just awe-inspiring. Of course, as we open this episode, we still have Cosmo and Hiyori held captive by Kugaha, and there's a real legitimate worry for Hiyori's spirit. Her cord, her tail is becoming kind of translucent. It's beginning to fade, meaning she's going to lose herself, effectively, and she's still, even knowing that, wanting to go and confront Yato and try to dial him back. When we find that, I think it's Kuha and, Aiha, who has been tainted and manipulated by Kugaha, they go and effectively release, Cosmo and Hiyori. And this confrontation that unfolds, Bishamon herself is in full-on attack mode. And it gets to the point where the blighting has so succumbed her own being, as well as, transferred over to all of her regalia that she's using as armor and weapons in this battle that is just so heated, with hundreds of centuries of contempt for Yato. I've seen people talking about, well, she should be smarter than this, she should know better, she should be able to figure it out and appreciate what Yato had done for her. But I challenge anyone who says that to have a child and then not want to defend that child, even at the sacrifice of your own life. Not to mention hundreds or dozens, whatever it was, of all these regalia, that Cosmo was the only survivor of, when he asked Yato to save Bishamon and kill them, effectively, because they had blighted her. We still don't know exactly what caused that original blighting. But at this point, in the here and now, the blighting has gotten so, sort of expounded. It's become a scourge, and now it's fueling itself through the rage that Bishamon feels. She's losing control of herself. And Yato actually resigns himself to the fact, sort of smirking, with all the drive and the passion she has against him, because of all of her family that she lost, the losses she suffered, that she's been carrying around, the guilt and the remorse for centuries, as I say. All of that is coming to a crashing halt. And it's going to eat her away. It's going to destroy her. It's going to destroy everything within this pantheon, that is her sort of homestead, if you will, in this far shore sort of framework. Yato has resigned himself that he must destroy her. He's going to be the willing participant of Kugaha's master plan. And as Cosmo and Hiyori get there in time, Hiyori's voice is what holds Yato off. But nothing can hold Bishamon off at this point. And we see Cosmo pulling a Yukine and getting in the way of a killing blow that Bishamon had set upon Yato, pushing Yato out of the way. And it's such a heartbreaking tragedy. It's a tragedy anew. It's a tragedy renaissance for Bishamon, in that it's all happening again. And as we see, in this event, it's not Yato killing her hundreds of regalia. It is Kugaha. He has summoned this phantom that can even surpass the barriers and everything, the protective barriers, and the guilt that Bishamon holds within herself. It was only sort of mirrored by what Aiha was feeling, to have her finally sell Kugaha out. Whether that means she herself will die, whether that means, we left off at the end of this episode very much with Kugaha ready for the final confrontation to sick, in effect, this phantom on Yato, on Bishamon, if they don't destroy each other, as was his plan, was his, the whole framework of what he's been trying to do. And once again, we have that reiteration in his madness, that description of what is fueling all of this. What was his impetus behind all of this? The fact that in the wake of these losses, for Cosmo, as her one exemplar, as her one surviving regalia, in the earliest days after that, she felt that he was, all she would ever need to survive. But in that strength being fueled by her rage, he supported her and supported that, and never revealed what the truth of the matters were, so that she would keep going. She would have an impetus to live. And through these losses, she began taking in regalia, and we see that she's now taken in hundreds upon hundreds because she wants to create a family. She wants to create a better life in this far shore afterlife equivalent for all of these lost spirits. And, she's being very benevolent, but this is exactly what has cast upon her Kukaha's disdain and his contempt. Is just burgeoning this idea of being so power hungry. He wants to create a Bishamon anew that he can command and commandeer and conquer and be the true wielder of the power she would possess, And it's just absolutely tragic and captivating and heartbreaking all at once, with this unanswered question by the end, much as we left the cliffhanger of the last episode. Was Yukine dead? Well, no, he's not. We find out in this episode. But what about now Kazuma and all of these, sort of innermost regalia that Bishamon was using as her weapons and armor? They are all blighted, and she says, as she's sort of, cowering over them and brought to just the breaking point, that so many of her regalia are dead. Does she mean them as well? Are they beyond saving? Or is there hope for her? Is there hope for Kazuma? Is it just that they've been touched by this scourge and they can wipe it away? Can they undo what Kukaha has done? It was an absolutely amazing episode, and a heartbreaking episode, just to see the weight of all of that guilt, the weight of all of that remorse, to be so ever present. Bishamon crushing under the weight of all of it, and Kazuma leaning in and embracing her and exposing the truth, finally coming to the point of letting her know what this was all about, that it was he who asked Yato to do this. He let it pass for so many centuries because this was something that gave her strength, a sort of, I guess you could say specious reasoning, but for all intents and purposes, it was a driving force for her. And it was a force that she turned good, even though it was still fueled by this rage and this madness and this contempt that, as viewers who aren't experiencing it, it's very easy to say, well, she's just being an airheaded idiot for still blaming Yato and all this stuff. But I feel like it was perfectly plausible. It was perfectly allowable that, having her, what she saw as her children, murdered, and she would rather have let herself die with them than suffer to live on without them. It's perfectly understandable and relatable that she would have all of this weight, that she would have all of this sadness, and she could only almost fall to pieces when all of these revelations come to the fore. And the end of this episode, we are just left off with what promises to be an explosive confrontation with Kugaha. It's amazing to me because we're only 5 episodes in, and it feels like we're building up to the finale of the series. Like the last couple episodes might as well have been the last 3 episodes of this particular season. I can't even begin to imagine where we go from here. If the Bishamon arc continues beyond this point, and how it will be doing so. And I'm going to be very curious to find out, penultimately, after the end of this episode, sort of the 3 main things are going to be how they deal with Kugaha, whether it's going to be Bishamon and Yato working together, whether their relationship is going to be sort of, I guess you'd say, the hate and the disdain that has been between them. At least on Bishamon's side, it seems like Yato's been more fearful of running into her, in the early going, but now he's just sort of, I think he's kind of understanding where she's coming from, so I could see there potentially being some sort of supportiveness between them. And I would love to see that, as well as, just rounding it out. What's going to happen with Hiyori? Is she going to get back to her body in time? Is she going to get out of here in time, spirit herself away, so that she doesn't die and become this, roving spirit permanently, to be probably another regalia for Yato? It's got me pitched on the edge of my seat to find out how this is all going to play out. And I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of episode 5 of Noragami Aragoto, if you've seen it, if you were as captivated and moved by this story and what was happening with Bishamon and all of that weight coming down on top of her. you know, bringing her literally to her knees. If it moved you as much as it did me, if it captivated you as much as it did me. If not, why not? Let me know in the comments below. Love having the conversation with you guys. We can agree to disagree, whatever our POVs happen to be. Just love having that conversation. And so, yeah, otherwise, it'll be pretty much it for me on this. Bring on the next one wholeheartedly. I can't wait to see how this plays out. And I'll catch you later. Peace.